Hare Krishna Sadi, Prabhu, are you there? Hare Krishna Mother CITI-SAKTI.
करने की 4 या 5 के बीच में तो स्कूल से निकलती है।
Hare Krishna Mother CITI-SAKTI, please accept my respectful obeisances. I go to this Founder Sharishi Prabhupada. Thank you for accepting our invitation to share this Srimad Bhagavatam nectar with us. So, dear devotees, we welcome all of you to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Our regular host is Grace Sadi. Prabhu is having some technical glitch. I will be joining us very soon, but I guess we can start. So, Mother CITI-SAKTI, if you're ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and you can start. You're muted.
I think perfect. Go for it. Hare Krishna, everybody. Obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Praise to Gurudev Srila Prabhupada.
So I can put the verse on the screen and you
Yes,
can.
please. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I also have a but let's see how far we can go. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so we are continuing with Canto 3, Chapter 9. This is verse 11. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja ashe srutekshita patho nanu natha pumsam yad yadhyata urugaya bhiva vibhavayanti tat tat vapu pranayashe sad anugrahaya. Translation: O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The statement here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.11. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam satheva bhajamyaham. We should note, however, that the Lord is never the order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned, Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through the execution of matured devotional service, or prem, love of God. This state of prem is achieved by the gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees, and by such association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotional service, which includes proper initiation and the execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the revealed scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Shrutekshita. The Shrutekshita path is to hear from bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord, as described in the Vedas. This attachment of the devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to natural inclination. Each and every living entity is originally attached to a particular type of transcendental service because he is eternally the servitor of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entity is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by the practice of regulative devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like one who is already eternally attached. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Swarup Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form the pure devotee desires, and thus the Lord does not part from the devotee. As confirmed in the previous verse, the Lord, however, does not disclose himself to a casual or unauthentic worshipper to be exploited. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritaha. Rather, by yoga maya, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or casual devotees who are serving their sense gratification. The Lord is never visible to the pseudo-devotees who worship the demigods in charge of universal affairs. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of a pseudo-devotee, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. Okay, I'll just chant Mangalarchanam and then we'll start. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagna Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhamvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you for having me back again, everyone. It's always really nice to be here with the devotees. Can I request a few more of you to put your cameras on so that I feel like I'm speaking to people? It would be very nice. Thank you so much, Hassan Prabhu. Thank you, Sati. And there is a devotee who's decided to put a donkey or an animal avatar. Is it possible to see you instead of the animal? Please, if that's okay. Oh, Hare Krishna, Saratna Prabhu. How are you? Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is a really, really, really sweet, beautiful verse. As Brahma is glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm going to just read the translation again. Oh, my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So this, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he sums up for us what bona fide hearing is. That when we are hearing in a bona fide way, we must hear from somebody who is conversant in Vedic literature, which is free of mundane sentiment. So there's no filter. There's no filter of the pushes and pulls of societal imposition or standards, the pushes and pulls of mundane human psychology. And furthermore, not only is the knowledge of the Vedic literature free of all this mundane speculation, not only is it just presented as it is, we know it is because it comes in disciplic succession. We've heard this many, many times. Even in the previous chapter, we spoke about how disciplic succession is essential, and Brahma, speaking to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is part of that disciplic succession. He's the head of our sampradaya. This verse really sweetly and really nicely sums up for us the process and stages, in one sense, of what happens when we start off on this devotional path with Shraddha and how it concludes with Prem. Srila Prabhupada breaks it down for us, and actually he summarizes it in this purport very, very, very nicely. That actually, when we hear from a bona fide source, when we hear unadulterated transcendental knowledge as it is, which has been received properly, so that means a person who knows it has also received it properly and therefore is capable of delivering it properly. A number of things happen. A number of things happen which are progressive and progress us to a state which is natural to us. And that is a state of being in constant remembrance and love of Krishna. And so he describes how once we start to hear, the first thing that's established in the heart with bona fide hearing, and we know that it's bona fide, it's working, it's proper, is one will develop faith. One will develop pure faith. What is pure faith? Shraddha doesn't just relate to, oh, I have faith in spirituality, or I have faith that there's an energy out there, or I have faith. Even Shraddha doesn't even refer to, I believe in God. Shraddha actually refers to, I believe that loving and serving Krishna is the beginning and end of everything. That is actually Shraddha. So, because when we hear from a bona fide source, when Parikshit Maharaj asks Shukadev Goswami as a bona fide source, okay, as a bona fide person to hear from, what is the best thing for all people to do at all times, anywhere in the world, especially one who's dying, you know, the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is really that actually the beginning and end of everything. Loving Krishna and serving Krishna is the beginning and end of everything. So that's actually Shraddha. Some faith that, oh, okay, wow, this is amazing. By hearing from somebody who's come in disciplic succession, who's presenting me with Vedic literature, the conclusion of Vedic literature, which isn't tinged by mundane sentiment, one's faith awakens that, oh, yeah, okay, I believe that to be true. This must be the best thing. So what next? So Srila Prabhupada explains that then by further hearing, one then wants to associate with others who have this faith. That actually reestablishing my relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the ultimate goal of life. And as we hear more and we spend more time in Sadhu Sangha, then one comes under the guidance of a spiritual master themselves and applies the systematic principles in order to then clear the heart of what Brahma's, describing here. What Lord Brahma describes as, that the heart, through this bona fide hearing, the heart becomes clean. So as the heart's getting cleaner and cleaner, different things take place. First, faith is established. Then one wants to associate with those like-minded people until this is the thing with the cleansing of the heart. The cleansing of the heart, in one sense, is also the cleansing of the mind, right? Because when we talk about we're not talking about the physical heart, we're talking about the emotional heart. The emotions are part of the subtle body, and thoughts are part of the subtle body, and past impressions are all part of the subtle body. They affect the mind aspect, which is to do with up here, and also the mind aspect, which is to do with here. So the heart is getting cleansed of all these impressions. So the first thing is faith is reestablished. Then one wants like-minded association, and association that's ahead of us, heroes, association that's similar, that we can churn with, and association that is that encourages us, the fans. And as one progresses in that, then inevitably, as the heart gets even cleaner, it's like, okay, hang on a minute, I want to systematically progress in this. I want to commit myself to this. I want to actively not just make space for Krishna consciousness in my life, but I want my life to be built around Krishna consciousness. Okay, not that I fit Krishna consciousness into my life, but I fit my life into my Krishna consciousness. And at this point, one takes shelter of a spiritual master. One is ready. Then that, the heart is clean enough that there's enough of our conditioning has been moved aside that we can trust someone with this very essential and really the most important body that we have. Because we have three bodies. We have a physical body, we have a subtle body or a metaphysical body, and we have a spiritual body. And there is different nourishment for each of these three bodies. And each of these three bodies need different food, different maintenance, different types of maintenance. They relate to time and space differently. But ultimately, only our soul is permanent. So as the heart gets cleaned further, and Srila Prabhupada explains that as we undertake systematic regulative principles of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, then what happens? Even more cleaning happens. One goes through anartha nivritti. Okay, as we become more regulated, more steady, the effect, as it's like the cleaning, as it becomes more rhythmic, as it becomes more regular, then the cleaning takes place, and there's less and less unwanted things. And as there's less and less unwanted things, one achieves nishtha. One is fixed and regulated in their faith and in their practice, in body, mind, and words. And then the magic happens. As the cleaning is really starting to now, really take effect. And we know at that at nishtha, 75% of anarthas are gone. Okay, one is left with 25%. So it's just a small but significant still, small veil of dust on the mirror of the heart. What then emerges is by continuing, one then moves into the realm of Srila Prabhupada says, first taste. There is some taste for worshipping the Lord in a particular form. And as further cleaning, further hearing takes place, even more hearing takes place, even more chanting takes place, even more reading takes place, even more seva takes place, then this taste for that particular form of the Lord turns to attachments. This is what Brahma is talking about. As the heart becomes cleansed, Krishna takes his seat. He starts to take his seat. And as one becomes attached, what's the difference between ruchi, which is taste, and ashakti, which is attachment? Ruchi, it's I like Krishna. Attachment is I like Krishna, but when he's not there, I miss him. I notice when he's not there. Ruchi one maybe doesn't notice so much when he's not there, but they like him when he's there, right? But attachment, when he's not there, I notice. And then we have Bhav. One develops ecstatic symptoms and really understands the 11 key symptoms of their identity, their service, their mood, much more specifically. And then the Lord is making his seat more and more and more. And here is describing you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So this is really this how sadhya leads to our, siddha. So what we're doing leads to what we become, right? We practice with this gross body and this subtle body or metaphysical body, the principles of devotional service, so that we attain or regain our natural constitutional position. And Srila Prabhupada says this is exactly how it is. He explains this in the purport. He says that every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by practice of regulative devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like one who is already eternally attached. Basically, one becomes exactly like a Nityasiddha and becomes a Nityasiddha. Because from Ruchi onwards, Ruchi and Ashakti, there is some level of regulated practice as well. One is specifically and purposefully meditating on the pastimes that are attractive according to the nature of their affection to Krishna. So we understand there's 5 different mellows, 5 different flavors of affection for Krishna. There's neutrality, there is servitude, there is friendship, there is parental affection, and then there's romantic affection in married and unmarried. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Madhya Lila, in the 22nd chapter, there is in verse 107, we're told that this is verbatim, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the heart of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So hearing comes up over and over and over again. There is no shortage of references or emphasis on the fact that we should hear, right? And we're hearing all of the time. But what is it that we hear? Okay, what are we hearing from bona fide sources? We're hearing about the process of devotional service. We hear about the goal of devotional service. We hear about the relationship we have with Krishna. So we hear about Sambandha, Prayojana, Abhideya, but we also hear about Krishna's form, his nature, his qualities, his pastimes, his activities, and of course we hear his name, his many, many names. And that's important, very important. Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 9 says, one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities won't come to this world again, but actually returns to my eternal abode. And what is the purpose? Whether we're hearing about the process or the goal or our relationship with Krishna or even about Krishna himself, it all has this amazing potency to cleanse the heart. What does cleansing the heart mean? Yes, removing past impressions, but it's really removing the overlay that makes us forget. It's awakening us from an amnesia, right? So hearing about him, especially because he's emphasizing understand the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities. So you don't come back here, but you actually come back to me, right? We're regaining and reawakening that which we already know. Because whatever we hear about regularly, we develop affection for. And after affection, you continue regularly even more, one actually develops attachment. So hearing about him is essential, but how we hear about him is really essential it's really essential to have it done properly for where we're at. Okay, so now thinking, well, hang on a minute, what does that mean? Does that mean only certain pastimes or only certain books? What does this mean? Now, we'll often discuss that it's really important for us to reflect and be honest about where we are at in our spiritual life. For a significant chunk of our spiritual life, and usually when people are pitching themselves far more ahead than they actually are, it can be quite bewildering. But it is possible from Shastra, when you're reading, to align our taste, our level of practice, our level of faith, and do a really honest analysis on our own and also with loved ones as to where we might be at and where we're aspiring to get to. And equally, as one progresses, one needs to not be shy about the fact that they are progressing, because the way we read must reflect where we're at. It's just like the alphabet. I think I've given this example before. The alphabet is done by somebody who's age 5, but so does a PhD. They also use the alphabet, right? But somebody who's 5 years old uses the letters of the alphabet very differently to somebody who's doing a PhD, right? So therefore, chanting and reading the same pastimes is different at the beginning stages, at the intermediate stages, and at the advanced stages. So if we look at, and this is from Nectar of Devotion and then further elaborated, I want to share something from Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani that His Holiness Shivram Maharaj has written. So really, it's like an in-depth analysis of Srila Prabhupada's writings in Nectar of Devotion. So he talks about 4 different types of reading depending on where somebody is at. So for non-devotees, for mixed devotees, and mixed devotees are those who haven't yet got Shraddha of faith that Krishna is the beginning and end. Maybe it's mixed with attachment for the demigods, etc. So non-devotees, mixed devotees, and also beginner devotees. So Kanishta, so pure devotees who are Kanishta. So when Srila Prabhupada talks about how all devotees, all of his disciples, all his devotees are pure devotees, he's not saying that everybody's an Uttamadhikari. What he's saying is they're all pure devotees and they're pure in their faith for Krishna. But they're at different stages. So Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or the very unripe mango and the ripe mango. And there's a big difference between an unripe mango and a ripe mango. The unripe mango is green, it's tough, it's sour, and kind of dry. To the beginning stages of a devotional service, we are green with envy, we are kind of tough, we're a bit dry and boring to be around, and we're a bit sour to be around, right? And then you look at a mango box and you look at the madhyams. They're kind of green, they're kind of yellow, getting a bit more sweet, a bit more soft, and one's looking forward to, this will be ready soon. And then the Uttamadhikari is the ripe mango. Soft, juicy, golden color, sweet, okay? Whichever side you bite it on, it's oozing with nectar. Right, so the reading is different. So the non-devotee, the mixed devotee, and the Kanishta should, what he describes, he calls it incidental reading. Okay, this is coming across Krishna's pastimes as they manifest, as they appear, in the order they appear, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books systematically. So if you read Srila Prabhupada's books systematically, starting with Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and if alongside that you're reading also Krishna book and the small books, etc., you will come across Krishna's pastimes. We do that, and this purifies us and also increases our affection for Krishna, increases our faith. It does all of those things in a way that is appropriate, because the way the pastimes, especially in the Bhagavatam, they're delineated, they're done to take us from Aishwarya, or understanding Krishna as in his greatness, through to his most personal feature in the 10th canto. And then when we go into Chaitanya Charitamrita systematically, then one's better qualified to be able to relish that nectar. As one matures, as one achieves Madhyam, so Madhyam is at Nishtha, or so Madhyam is Nishtha, and Madhyam Uttam goes from Ruchi to Ashakti. So that means the qualification is for Uttam, but the manifestation is Madhyam. Okay, it's kind of like one might have the qualification to become a millionaire, but they haven't yet acquired, they haven't yet become the millionaire. So that's the difference between the Madhyam. The Madhyam is the person, they haven't got qualification yet to be a millionaire, and they don't have millions, but they're in good standing. But the Madhyam Uttam has the qualification to become the millionaire, but hasn't yet attained it. And of course, Bhav and Prema is Uttam, they've got the qualification and they've also achieved it. So for the Madhyam. So it's strong faith, okay, fixed faith, not deep faith yet, but strong faith. They can engage in purposeful reading, which is you focus on certain pastimes, okay, certain pastimes that you may really enjoy, you may relish, you may go back. You've read all the books systematically. Now you may just go back to certain sections that really inspire you. As one moves into Madhyam Uttam, and also for the Uttam, one then engages in two other types of reading. So from Ruchi onwards, applied reading, where you focus on certain pastimes to recall during your bhajan, okay, or systematic worship. And this is related to what you've awakened to, what someone's awakened to. And then as one advances further, then it becomes even more specific. That's a fourth type of reading, where one makes themselves familiar with the Ashtakalya Leela, reads them and immerses themselves in the Ashtakalya Leela because they will remember this during their japa time. So these are four different types and four different approaches to reading the same pastimes, but different depending on where somebody is at. Why is this so important? In this verse, Brahma is very clearly saying that as the heart becomes cleansed, he says, you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. The way we always think of, it's not just this random thought. If one looks at Raganuga Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti in practice, one is meditating, or they're sadhya. They're engaging in the activities in their mind and heart which relate to the siddha, that is natural for them, the form that is natural for them. But Srila Prabhupada, he highlights in the purport this particular phrase from the verse, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. Krishna makes this seat in the heart. Paribhavita is very, very significant here. This word Paribhavita means being 100% engaged. When one is 100% engaged, that's prema, that's when Krishna fully establishes his seat in the heart. And Prabhupada's saying that this is, he uses this word efficient, right? Efficiency, this indicates the efficiency achieved through execution of matured, not maturing, matured devotional service or prema. Okay, so he says not to get this mixed up with Krishna's the order supplier, we can ask him for whatever we want and he's just going to give it. This is still just kind of really quite a transactional and impersonal relationship with Krishna. We're seeing this what Brahma here is describing is the way Krishna reciprocates with the devotee who is 100% surrendered to him. Not the devotee who is 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Not the devotee who's almost there. Okay, but the devotee who's there, then Krishna is 100%. This is when Krishna becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, because what's taken over is their spontaneous love for him. This is a phrase Prabhupada uses. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. The transcendental loving service of the devotee makes Krishna pliable. It makes him soft. It makes him accommodating. It makes him bendy and flexible. Okay, so this when we hear in classes that make your heart so soft that Krishna wants to reside there, that Krishna wants to be there, that Krishna wants to manifest there. It's not talking about be so sentimental that you feel every emotion under the sun. It's not saying you should try to become a crybaby. Yes, of course, devotees, we all, human beings, feel a lot of different things. We're saying is make your heart soft by making space, by clearing it of all the other things that occupy the mind and heart space, or the desires, or the aversions, all the misconceptions, all the lies that we've told ourselves for such a long time to be able to be in this body. We have to tell ourselves so many topsy-turvy things to be able to stay in this body. And none of them are really true in any kind of permanent sense. Even Prabhupada even says, Prabhupada doesn't mince his words. He goes, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish. This thing is rubbish, right? It's rubbish. Anything that's between us and our eternal identity, our eternal service to Krishna, he describes it as rubbish. It's rubbish because what's rubbish? It's useless. It actually has no use. We've given it a use. Sometimes when you clear your house out, you throw so much stuff away. And you realize, wow, there was a lot of rubbish in my house that I thought was just useful, that I hung on to hoping it would be useful. We have so much. We carry so much. But this process is so wonderful that if we're here from a bona fide source in a bona fide way, just here, if you hear properly, everything else takes place automatically. If you hear properly, then application is inevitable, because where there's faith, then application is inevitable. But we must keep hearing. And this is this phrase that Brahma uses, that your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing. Seeing Krishna always. So it's not just, oh, I'll wait for Krishna to reveal himself. What am I doing to seek him out? What am I doing to see him? Am I making sure that in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I am showing him, that I'm seeking out bona fide hearing, because that bona fide hearing will just draw me to him, closer to him. So this verse that Brahma speaks to Krishna, and then the purport that follows, Srila Prabhupada has given us a very condensed version. If you hear regularly, it is inevitable. It is inevitable that you will move from Shraddha through to Sadhisanga, through to Bhajan Kriya, unsteady first, then steady, all under the guidance of the spiritual master. Anartha Nivritti will take hold of you, clear most of your anarthas. You'll get to Nishtha, and after Nishtha, you will nicely and swiftly, with less difficulty, progress through Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhav, and Prem. He is basically saying, and echoing Brahma, the process works. The process works. Be mindful of what you hear, be mindful of who you spend time with, and be mindful of who you hear from. Because we have 3 bodies. All 3 of those bodies need nourishing. But if you look at the things that nourish the physical body, they don't nourish the soul. If you look at the things that nourish the metaphysical or the psychological or energy or subtle body, that doesn't always nourish the soul. It doesn't nourish the soul. It can nourish the physical body, but it nourishes the mind. But if you feed the soul, it nourishes everything. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore the needs of the metaphysical and the physical body, but it means we definitely don't ignore the needs of the soul. Because when we lose that aspect of ourselves, being unhappy is inevitable, because the goalposts are always changing in terms of our metaphysical and physical identity. There is always change. It is a fact of life. It's as guaranteed as death. So this verse is it's a really nice verse to study, really unpick, and go through what Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. Srila Prabhupada has this amazing way of packing in as much as possible in every purport, as if that's the last thing he's ever going to say. That was his sense of urgency. We must ask ourselves, am I living my Krishna consciousness with that sense of urgency? Our spiritual master Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he had this sense of urgency. He would live, and he would say this, he would teach like this, that he lives each day as if it's his last. And what that would do, and he would talk about this, he talks about it in his leadership books, how this forces one to really prioritize what they do, what they say, what they consume. Because we become that which we surround ourselves with, we become that which we do, we become that which we hear. And this is the whole process of moving from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti, right? Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti, the same thing. One is doing, hearing, and associating with that which they want to become. At all stages, there's sadhu sangha. At all stages. But one must adjust what they're doing, they're hearing, and who they're associating with, depending on where they're at now and where they want to be next. And if we don't know where we're at now, it's very difficult for us to understand where we should be going next. You know, for the Kanishta, the goal of reading often is just to achieve some steadiness in the reading and the hearing, so that one can then come to Madhyam. What is the goal of a Madhyam? To read and hear with love, to develop the motivation of love, so that when one becomes then Uttam, one is doing the same things compelled by love. So I'm going to stop there. This is a very deep verse, very deep purport, and I would love to hear from more of you and your thoughts, your realizations, your questions, because we can take this particular verse into many different directions, and I'd like to see what you've got to say. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Okay, good. I've been having issues with my system, so
Is that why you had that avatar?
Yeah, that avatar.
Your animal avatar.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question.
Comments, please don't be shy to share your realizations.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful verse.
Yeah. Well, this process of devotional service, moving from one step to another as we're trying to grow in spiritual life, is very interesting and very scientific. Does it take, like, moving from, let's say, from Nishta to, let's say, Prema, is it something that could be done in a matter of one lifetime?
It can.
Because it seems to me one may get stuck on one platform for the rest of his entire life.
And that's where the word may, you said may. Of course, it's possible to go from Shraddha to Prem in one lifetime. This is why Srila Prabhupada has given us what he's given us, right? He said, you follow what I say and you'll go back to Godhead in this lifetime. He wasn't joking. He wasn't, just hyping us up. It wasn't a hype phrase. He knows the process works, right? And here it's saying very clearly, bona fide hearing. This is Brahma telling us. He's the head of our sampradaya. By bona fide hearing, you keep hearing in a bona fide way, you will make your seat. If your devotee hears about you in a bona fide way, you will make your seat in their heart. This is he's saying the same thing that Srila Prabhupada is saying. Prabhupada gave us a whole system for bona fide hearing. So it is entirely possible to even go from Shraddha to Prem in a lifetime. It is also entirely possible to stay stuck at any of the stages for many lifetimes, right? We hear about so many personalities who, glorious, wonderful devotees at Bhav, and they get stuck even at Bhav because they make an offense. Because, see, at Nishtha, we're cleansed of 75% of anarthas. And by Ruchi or Shakti, I think, by Ruchi or Shakti, we are absolutely cleansed of that 75. And the only real thing that's left after that is offenses. And the propensity to commit offenses is there as long as we are housed in the material body. Okay, and we are housed until in the material body until we actually leave it. So the risk is, that's why Lord Chaitanya was always so careful. You look at the exalted Vaishnavas, our acharyas, they're always so careful about offenses, not out of fear, but out of deep love and deep respect and out of great appreciation for what they actually have in terms of their internal devotional life with Krishna. They don't want to lose that. And when one is that sensitive because they've lost most of their anarthas, even a slight fluctuation in that clear image is unbearable. You know, the gopis cry that, why has Brahma given us eyelids? We have to blink. We can't see, we can't see Krishna for that split second. So it is, we have these glorious Vaishnavas who sometimes they get stuck even at Bhav. Look at Bharat Maharaj. With his soft heart at Bhav, he developed attachment to the deer. The little baby deers, the attachment to the deer wasn't the problem. The problem was the attachment progressed to a point where he forgot about all of his activities in spiritual life. And that's what the problem was. You see? So now, because of his level of advancement, even by taking birth as a deer, he remembered everything and he wanted to always be around the sages. And then when he took another human birth, he remembered everything and lived in a particular way. But yeah, just like it can be possible to go back in one lifetime, become a Nitya-Siddha in this very lifetime, it can be possible to be stuck at any stage for many, many lifetimes. But what we're being told here very clearly is bona fide hearing, both on the side of the speaker and the recipient. And bona fide hearing isn't just about Vedic literature, being conversant in Vedic literature, unadulterated by material sentiment, coming disciplic succession. But what am I hearing and how am I hearing it, depending on where I'm at in my spiritual life?
Wow. Thank you. That helps. But see, in the purport to this beautiful text, Srila Prabhupada was saying that through the process of devotional service, beginning from faith to love,
yes,
the possibility is there. But the problem I find is how we get stuck on the faith, because faith means that in order for our faith to become very strong, we should see our prayers answered. Like when we ask Krishna, do this for me, he does it. Like Mother Kunti, she prayed to Krishna so many times and she wasn't afraid. She said, let these calamities fall upon me again and again. Because when she prayed, Krishna showed up. In most of our cases, we may pray and Krishna seems not to show up. So it sometimes does not, our prayers and our relationship with Krishna sometimes does not make our faith so strong in order to gradually climb to the level of prema. So what do we do when our expectations are not being met by the Supreme Lord?
Right. That's a good question. And your question highlights the importance of knowing where we're at and making sure our expectations match where we're at. If someone's at Bhajan Kriya, why do they have the expectations of someone at Shraddha? When we first start the process, before we made any commitment, you ask anyone, when they first came to the process, they saw the most magical things in their Krishna consciousness. It was like, wow, I've never seen anything like it. I just asked for this, I thought of this, and it just happened. And it's like, wow, Krishna must be real. And then Sadhu Sangha is like, wow, Krishna's devotees are the best people on the planet. There's no one else like them. And then one takes to Bhajan Kriya. And what are we saying when we take to Bhajan Kriya? I'm going to accept a spiritual master and get rid of this transactional mentality. And your question comes from a transactional mentality. Why is Krishna not reciprocating with my request to increase my faith? Because he doesn't want you to stay at Shraddha. He doesn't even want you to stay at Sadhu Sangha or Bhajan Kriya. He wants to get you the hella move on into Anartha, rapid Anartha Nivritti, so that you can get to Nishtha and then to Prem. And for that, he needs to see, are you still going to hear about me? Are you still going to talk about me? Are you still going to call me even when this material world becomes uncomfortable? Or did you not mean it when you said that you believe that I'm the beginning and ending of everything? Does that make sense? So knowing where we're at, helps us to set our expectations. At Bhajana Kriya, to expect that Krishna is going to fulfill our every desire is unrealistic, because that's not the mood with which we take Diksha. Do we take Diksha because we're like, yeah, I want to take Diksha because I want my daily bread. I want my job. I want this. You already got all those things. You got your daily bread before you even knew who Krishna was. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have to, it's like, and one's going through Anartha Nivritti, heavy Anartha Nivritti, and then we go, okay, Krishna, like, please make, relieve me of my suffering, please, give me a really good life. Like, you told me that you want to hurry up and come to me, so I'm trying to speed this up for you. This is where removing your unwanted things I'm removing the unwanted things. Why are you asking for them back again? Right?
Yeah.
So this is, but at the same time, you gave the example of Queen Kunti. Queen Kunti has deep affection for Krishna. So even if he didn't show up, even if he didn't appear the way she requested, she would be happy, because whatever way he manifests, she's able to receive as his mercy. And this is the difference between the relationship of love versus the relationship of transaction, right? The relationship of love is one makes their petition, their proposal to Krishna, but they're also detached from how Krishna gives that love.
Well.
Whereas the transaction is, I want you to love me, and I want you to love me specifically like this. So pure devotional service, going from unripe mango to ripe mango, means changing, adjusting, and we can only change and adjust and fine-tune depending on really understanding, where am I at? Even for Bhajan Kriya, am I unsteady Bhajan Kriya or am I steady Bhajan Kriya? If we're unsteady Bhajan Kriya, then we know that honestly, realistically, I need to work on my steadiness. I need to work on being systematic. I need to show Krishna that I'm showing up. And one of the powerful things is, as this whole idea of bona fide hearing means we get association. How do you ripen unripe fruit? You stick it with the ripe fruit. You put unripe bananas with ripe bananas, they will ripen fast. You put unripe mangoes with ripe mangoes. We've got a box of mangoes in the kitchen right now. And, they're 3 days ago, most of them were kanishtas. They were green, right? The next day, right, most of them were madhyams. Now I'm seeing a few madhyams, a few uttams, all the kanishtas have gone. All right. And like by tomorrow, we're having, oh my God, we've got to eat all the uttams. They're sweet and juicy. If we leave them too long, they're going to rupture. So this is the thing. When we are unripe, we want to soak up all the association we can get, because ripe fruit makes unripe fruit ripe. Do that with any fruit. It's a tip for your household as well. You want to ripen your fruit. I'm sure you know this anyway. Having come from the, hot tropical kind of climates that you've come from.
Yeah.
Fruit
Yes.
Yes. So be real with where you're at, and have your expectations aligned with where you're at and how Krishna reciprocates at that stage, because Krishna reciprocates differently at different stages.
Well, thank you so much. I wish I could go back to my early Kanishta days when I was Bhakta Smith. I believe I was a better devotee then than I am now. But I cannot wind the time back. But since we have Padov.
Can I just comment on what you just said? I mean, what you just said, I think so many devotees can relate to. But it's not that you were a better devotee then. The process works, so you're definitely more advanced than you were then. However, the raw enthusiasm and openness we have when we start, that is partly a result of things being fresh and new. And Gurudev used to talk about this, that we should all rejoin the process on a regular basis. So take ourselves back to being a beginner on a regular basis. And I find this extremely helpful. It's something I've recently, like in the last few months, really been focusing on rejoining, revisiting, going back to scratch, going back to basics as if I know nothing. I kid you not, it's liberating. It's liberating because there's no pressure to be something or be someone. It's like, okay, what am I really rubbish at in my devotional life? Let me just look at that and how can I be better? And it's just like, it opens the heart, it opens the ears, it takes away the burden. And you know what's amazing about Goloka Vrindavan, what's amazing about the spiritual dimension is that everything is ever fresh. That is in our nature, for things to always feel new, ever fresh, right? Which is why we hanker for it now. So we can keep things ever fresh by reminding ourselves that we can begin again, because it'll bring you back to this very joyous space you're talking about, that when we first start, we are enthusiastic about the fact that we know nothing. And it brings a greed and appetite and hunger in us, and a humility in us that is really worth revisiting again.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Mother CITI-SAKTI. Padolf, please, you may unmute.
I think that's Sarvatma Prabhu. I don't know if his name is Padolf.
Is that
your name Padolf, Sarvatma Prabhu?
No, that's tongue in cheek.
Oh.
If you eliminate a couple of letters, you will see there.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Padolf is a master impersonator.
So, first, thank you. That was brilliant. You never disappoint. If you allow me to be shameless, I'd like to comment a little bit of what you just talked about. First of all, as far as Kunti, yes, she had an alloyed love for Krishna, but also helped the fact that they were contemporaries. So it wasn't so difficult for Krishna to show up.
Yes.
If Krishna was living at a different time, the story may be different somehow or other. But fortunately, she was a cousin, and he was a cousin, and showed up. Simple as that.
He was really good to his cousins, wasn't he? Even Uddhav.
Secondly, yeah, we should know where we are at. And I just realized that you're at a completely different place where I'm at. Not just.
Yeah, I'm 10 million miles behind.
No. Not across the Atlantic. None of these, none of these cliches. It's actually, you're very clear in your understanding of Krishna consciousness, whereas I kind of grope around and come up with some good things, some bad things. The fact that you understand how to read Prabhupada's books is an advantage that you have over a lot of the regular devotees, especially perhaps the new generation, which are not as serious or studious as we used to be. I had a question about people coming from their previous life, and we know that not everybody is at the same level, and they will eventually, when the engine gets warm, it will start, and Krishna consciousness will kick in. However, they were at a certain platform, and they have to start from there. They cannot do a jump, and there are very few that come directly from the heavenly planets or the spiritual world to help the movement. So how of those who come to the movement somehow or other, those in search of wealth, like in India, is very common that young devotees join the movement because they get 3 meals a day and they get a shelter. Not uncommon. Also, those who want wealth, is common amongst certain people to pray to be successful, and they see these as a means where they can. It's a smaller society within the society where they can actually achieve success somewhat quickly. And then there is the curious that they're really fascinated but not committed, that they will actually once their questions are answered, they'll say thanks a bunch and wave goodbye. And of those, the those who are inquisitive about the absolute truth, they are the very few. And those are the ones who actually make it through if they don't commit serious offenses and so on. So how do we, I don't know even how to postulate this question. How do we make everybody jump to the more, this is a two-part question, through the hoops, so they don't have to go through the hard training. Like, for example, during peace times, one can join the military and will have to go through boot camp and training and et cetera, but in times of war, things are somewhat simplified, and they go through the same 3
like
months
a condensed
course,
version of boot camp.
yeah, and it will have to go for a week or maybe even less. So how can we understand that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and we are in times of war? The war with Maya and with Kali is a serious thing, and people have to step up to the plate. How can we bring most people to the higher level, even though they don't have the means? They perhaps don't have the sukriti, they don't have intelligence, they don't have the inclination, etc. That's okay. That's quite a chunk. So go ahead.
How do we speed up people's connection with Krishna?
Yeah.
You know, the condensed version of the boot camp, Srila Prabhupada's given us already, in the sense that the fact that things like Harinam, book distribution, whatever preaching projects, whichever different ways people are taking Krishna consciousness out to others, is not set up in such a way that it's like, okay, I'm only going to give it to you if you're distressed or seeking wealth or curious, or, you know, whether you're coming out of knowledge. We're here. We're going to do everything we can to bring this to you. How much you take is up to you. But the boot camp bit, right? This is the bit which comes through the mercy potency. The mercy potency of Lord Chaitanya, that actually just by chanting, there's no hard or fast rules. You just start, from the moment you chant your first Hare Krishna mantra, you're on the path. Okay, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why devotees just magnanimously and very generously always just trying to get people to just say Gauranga or Hare Krishna or something like that. Because see, the boot camp isn't just an external thing. It's not just about externally manifesting for people an opportunity to consciously connect with the spiritual path, but actually the bhakti program, the bhakti path that's planting the seed, that initial little nudge actually happens at a much deeper level. And it happens the moment one comes in contact with the holy name or a pure devotee or some knowledge. And once that little first domino is pushed of that domino effect, a chain of events is started. And anybody who preaches and takes people from the beginning and continues cultivating them over a period of time will see that we have already been given such a condensed boot camp that really it's Prabhupada and the Acharyas and Krishna being merciful to us to allow us to have the privilege of thinking of ingenious and intelligent ways to actively seek out people to share the message with, because the message in itself is the boot camp. The mercy that goes with that message is the boot camp. The mercy that goes with the message means the minute you hear about this, because of Kali Yuga and Lord Chaitanya's mercy, which is Radharani's mercy, because her heart is so soft, that even if you don't fit into those 4 categories, just because her devotee wants you to be a devotee, that's already got things going. But I also hear kind of the mood of your question, that people have got so much baggage to deal with in this lifetime that even if we go in with that mood, How can we expedite it? We need to spend, in my personal opinion, always is we need to spend more time boiling the milk. I think one of the reasons people get stuck is far too soon, far too early on. People are pushed partly by the Kanishta nature, but partly also the Kanishta nature of our society as well. Right? That we have a collective consciousness of Kanishta. We need to mature to Madhyam as a society. We're getting there. We're moving much more towards it than we were perhaps 20, 30 years ago. But if we've got too many people at an early stage focusing more on the giving out than on the nurturing, and that nurturing, staying with someone, staying with people, even if their results are not externally manifesting yet, really actually then when the results of their Krishna consciousness progress starts to manifest, then when you look back through their journey, we get the mercy of being able to see, oh wow, right, so these were the dots that I just saw as separate dots, but here's how they joined up. This is what the plan was. However, this does mean we stay with them, we nurture, we nourish, but they also stay with the process. So both things need to be there. Just staying with a person, watching their journey while there's no consistency or effort on their part can also be very draining for us. Am I making sense? I know I'm throwing out a few different ideas here, but really the point I'm trying to make is the speeding up is not in our hands. Because the speeding up, we've already been given devotional service on steroids. But we've been given Krishna consciousness on steroids because you don't have to be qualified at all to be able to start the journey. Okay, you don't actually have to. This is Lord Chaitanya's mercy. So that's already there. The obstacles are the obstacles, but the other side has to be that the recipient has to be willing. But the process itself makes the recipient more willing. I don't know if I misunderstood your question or said anything helpful.
No. You answered. You answered. However, we tend to put emphasis on the involuntary part of Krishna consciousness, the Agyata Sukriti, where just yell Gauranga to someone and then they will be saved, or just bound them, don't gag them, but just bound them and tie them up and feed them a gulab jamun, and that guarantees a human body. All these things that they may be partially true, but this is not the basis of our society. Even the verse before Tadvidi Pranipatena says that Krishna is pleased by being worshipped by knowledge, not by waving a stick at him, and especially a carcinogenic stick. So that will be is in our detriment almost, to embarrass ourselves and be so shallow as to think that, well, that person touched the book, so that's enough. I don't have
but I don't think that's what I'm referring to. What I'm saying is we have got.
No, I'm just sorry. I'm just commenting, perhaps on a tangent. And as far as I consider that you fully answered my question. The other point I had was when I heard you say about the earlier days when we were younger devotees, from a comment by Sahadev Prabhu about I was a better devotee before than I am now. I actually, if you consider the factor of time, like how much did I spend even before I joined Krishna consciousness, I went on a self-imposed isolation for many months, and I was thinking of God all day. That's all I thought about it. And then I joined the Hare Krishna movement, and not so much. And nowadays, probably less. I would say yes. So if you can see it as a regression, not a progression. However, it's been kind of like a funnel. I have distilled what I had. So there is
Yes.
not so much of it, but there's thicker. It's like I give you an example. You know, how many people graduate from elementary school? Millions. How many from high school? A little less. How about college? Less than that. How about masters? Less. PhD? Less. The fact is that you may say, well, you're actually narrowing your vision. You're actually, you know, you're limited. But it's exactly the opposite, because if you go get a job and all you have is the fact that you finish elementary school, and someone comes with a PhD, you're not going to get a job. Simple as that. So as far as going back to earlier times, you know, in our Krishna consciousness, and this is where I would like you to comment or, you know, agree or disagree. I think that when we joined, we got a bonus package for joining. It's called pleasure, like unbounded, unlimited bliss. And that's a sign-up bonus. That's not the salary. You know, you get, your salary is $1,000 a month, but you got $7,500 when you signed up. So you think, what happened? No, you just got a sign-up bonus. Matter of fact, Krishna takes it away, tends to take it away kind of right away, and then is contemplating if what you're attached to is the pleasure that you got or Krishna himself. So that's where the process really begins. You know, you basically kind of shake the cobwebs and then you start. Can you
So what's your
please
question?
comment?
Oh, it's a comment.
No, that was a comment, but I wonder if you agree or you have another vision of it.
I mean, it's kind of what you're talking about is something that Mitravinda's just raised in the chat, is that, in my opinion, it's not possible to affect or determine another person's time frame in the practice. That is an individual and personal thing. And then some of the thoughts you were sharing before about, you know, not to rely too much on someone screaming Gauranga, or, you know, the Agyata Sukriti of touching a book. See, there's so many different ways, right? There's the on one extreme, you've got the, oh, you know, the process itself is so pure. If you touch a book, then you're guaranteed a human birth, or at least you'll pick up at some point in this lifetime. Then there's the other extreme, that actually it is possible to affect the time frame of someone's advancement in Krishna consciousness. We have so many examples in Shastra of it, based on somebody's purity. Bhakti Devi is independent, and she chooses to give her independence to those who are most devoted. She'll go wherever they take her. Right? So you look at Prahlad Maharaj, he became a devotee because of Narad Muni's determination and sincere prayer, wishing him to become a devotee. So his purity had expedited Dhruva Maharaj's development and maturity. So that's another extreme. So it's the purity of the process, the purity of the individual, but then there's also something else, and this is something that we can all actively think about, is Srila Prabhupada, he says it a number of times, and I can't give you an exact reference for it, but he does say it a number of times, that a devotee should find intelligent ways to give this message to people according to time, place, and circumstance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people, and you look at the way Madhyam preaches, right? And Prabhupada, coming down to the behavior and platform of thinking of a Madhyam, he did this as well. He realized that most people, you know, because you love the Lord, you make friends with the devotees, you know, avoid those who are envious, and you preach to the innocent. Most people are innocent. Most people are innocent, as in that they actually, even the ones who say that they're atheists by the fact that they just don't know. They're more agnostic. And people don't know what they don't know. So actually, our systematic programs, whether they're massive projects or just you as an individual, creating something where you meet a person where they're at and you give them the knowledge and the cultivation in a way that suits them for where they're at their varying different stages. This is what mentorship is, Shiksha Guruship, Diksha Guruship is. Then we definitely have something where we take advantage of both of the purity of the process. We become pure ourselves and are better able to affect change on an internal level in that person's life. And equally, we have some system which reaches the innocent, but in not just a razzmatazz, hit you hard in the beginning way, but in a way that's nourishing, systematically nourishing, and nourishing in the long term. Because good relationships are hard work, and we all need them.
Well,
I don't, 1 second, I don't want to hijack this, but there were a couple of important points. And then I shut up, I promise. The one thing is that you cannot be an atheist, because no theos God means that you have the burden to prove that there is no God. And if you're able to do that, that means you're God, because unless you know everything, how could you know that? The other point was about Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, you said, was made a devotee by the pushing of Narada Muni. However, the story that I heard, that predates that, is that when Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were meditating in the Himalayas, they were trying to meditate, and Narada Muni showed up with Parvata Muni disguised as birds, and they will constantly chant Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, really disrupting them. They threw things at the birds, but they could never catch them. And when he was consummating his marriage and having inseminating his wife and having Prahlad, all he can think was the names that he heard from the birds chanting.
Okay, so Prahlad Maharaj, that would have given Prahlad Maharaj access to devotional service. But if you read the purports to the which talk about when Prahlad Maharaj's mum was pregnant with him and Narad Muni was reciting Bhagavatam to her, he was simultaneously actually really praying that her child become a pure devotee. There's a difference to having devotional service versus becoming a pure devotee. I'm going to just make a quick comment on something Mitravinda said in the chat room, and then I'm going to go to Shriman Varahaprabhu. Is that she said, is purity the goal? Love does not require it. Love is the goal. And love requires purity. Purity of heart, as in not unadulterated with the whims of this world. So the goal is love. The goal isn't purity. Shriman Varahaprabhu.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Shriman Varahaprabhu, please give me a mute.
Prabhu, you need to unmute. I can't hear you.
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Shriman Varahaprabhu. Okay, good.
Please accept mine, August Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Is it possible to turn on your camera?
My camera, okay, no problem.
All right.
Haribo.
So thank you very much. It's been a very nice discussion, being on and off. But something caught my attention. When you said you were explaining about the Kanishta level, and you said something about our Kanishta society also. Right. So that's very interesting. I want to see what would be your reaction to those who say that the ISKCON society is on the Kanishta level, and for that reason, they go to other societies to seek higher appreciation. What would be your reaction to that?
Sorry, can you say that again? Because the audio is a little unclear.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll make myself more clear. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Or is it better now?
I think it's much better now.
Yeah, so I said, when you mentioned that part of the problem is also the Kanishta society, which we belong, which is you're making a very factual statement. But then there are some people who say that, who use that as a reason why they've moved on to join
Somewhere else,
another
yes.
group
Yes.
for better association, because they consider that Christian society is on a canister level. What would be your reaction to that?
If ISKCON's Kanishta, it's because we're making it Kanishta. We make it Kanishta. So if we upgrade our consciousness, we'll move it. I mean, like I said, ISKCON's progressed. You know, we've had a lot of purification, a lot of anartha-nivritti in the last couple of decades. And it is stabilizing. We are getting closer to the qualities of a Madhyam collective consciousness. We're not quite there, but but anybody who complains that, oh, because ISKCON's at this level, I'm going somewhere else, know that those people are probably the kind of people who helped to make it Kanishta. Because if they were Madhyam or Uttam, they'd stay. Because we have definitely got Madhyams and Uttams. I'm not saying we don't have Madhyams and Uttams, but because of Prabhupada's mercy, we have a lot of Madhyams and Uttams, probably more than other places. And this is not me bragging or me being proud or me being kind of sectarian. This is me glorifying Srila Prabhupada. That's how amazing his process and his mercy is. You stay chaste, you stay loyal, you work hard. If you know that something's raw and young and it's your contribution that's going to help to mature it, then you stay and you work and you serve and you help to bring up the consciousness. Don't run away looking for something else, somewhere else which isn't even there. Because you know what? Kanishta still means pure devotee. When we're talking about Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam, you're talking about pure devotees. The faith is pure. The faith is in Krishna. It's not in just enjoying him. It's not just seeing him as a semi-god or a demigod or a transaction machine. So if you're leaving because you think that ISKCON's too mature for you, instead of leaving, contribute and raise the consciousness. Don't do the immature thing and leave. Sorry, I know that was a bit heavy, but it wasn't directed to you. It was just I'm a bit passionate about this topic.
No, I know. I've never thought of living Ishmael. I'm Ishmael. I'm always Ishmael. I belong to Prabhupada knew that. But let's look at it this way. You said that green fruits. Oh, sorry. Let me change my. So you said that green fruits get ripened in the association of ripe fruits.
Mm-hmm.
So if some people, I'm just reiterating your statement, so they feel that they're in the midst of green fruits and they want to go to where there are ripened fruits. So that is the argument, because you also mentioned that green fruits, when they stay closer to ripened fruit, they get ripened. So if their argument is that, yeah, I know I'm green, and I've seen, and I see that around me are also a lot of green fruits. So I'm moving on to where there are ripened fruits. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, so this is the point I was trying to make earlier. Saying that our collective consciousness is Kanishta doesn't mean that there are no Madhyams and Uttams. It's just the Madhyams and Uttams naturally, which is the process, are outnumbered by the Kanishtas. But also you've got to see who's in the leadership positions, how much boiling the milk is. This is why Prabhupada put so much emphasis on boil the milk. Nurture people, care for people. Don't be surprised by who leaves. Be surprised by who stays. Okay, so if somebody's green and they want to find ripe fruit, just because we're saying the collective consciousness of ISKCON is, Kanishta, but emerging out of Kanishta, going more to Madhyam, and let's pray one day we will be an amazing Uttam society. That person can still find ripe fruit and semi-ripe fruit in this movement. By saying the collective consciousness is like that doesn't mean that there's no ripe and semi-ripe fruit in this movement. We've got loads. That's what I'm saying. So they need to find that association. They'll find it here. They're not going to find it elsewhere, because to be honest, if they can't find it here, that means they don't know how to recognize it. And if they don't know how to recognize it here, they ain't going to be able to recognize it anywhere else either.
Mataji,
because I've seen in other, I'm sorry, I just want to say I've seen the other places that people go to for advanced association. they have not, Srila Prabhupada's given us a very systematic, structured way, which is important in this age where our minds are weak. Brahma says this to the Lord, even in this chapter. People are always suffering. They're pulled by their material hankerings. They're miserable. They're always in anxiety. People need a structured way which is rooted in mercy to be able to access the mercy. And that's what Srila Prabhupada's given. You look at all the other communities and they're full of wonderful devotees. But there is no, at all, there's no, well, there's very little clarity about standard, about systems, about results, about steps to the result, and too much reliance on the process just works. So people can easily delude themselves and other people that they are very ripe when they're not. And the people who move to look for this ripe fruit, they don't recognize what ripe fruit is anyway. And so then they're more likely to get misled. Again, my apologies, but I'm not being offensive. Other communities have got some wonderful, wonderful devotees. I'm just saying we shouldn't minimize what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And on that note, should we move to the next question? Because
but CITI-SAKTI, excuse me, may I say a word before we move on to Drishti? Drishti has had the hand up for quite a long time.
I've got an echo, Prabhu.
A couple of months ago, some of us traveled, we visited a family in near Vrindavan area. And we met one devotee, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, who left Srila Prabhupada's movement, ISKCON, and joined another organization.
Yeah.
And he was giving the same excuse that there are just green mangoes, there are ripened mangoes here. So, Govinda Prabhu is my god brother. We've been living together for so many years, so many decades. But I had never seen him in that mood ever before. We gave this devotee the utmost respect because he is our uncle, he's Srila Prabhupada's disciple.
Yeah.
But Govinda Prabhu asked him, wherever you are at the moment, you still strongly believe that you love Srila Prabhupada. Now, Srila Prabhupada built a house, and he wants the house to be a home where people can come and take refuge. You are having dissatisfaction, and you are leaving the house. Your brother also expresses the same dissatisfaction and leaves the house. And slowly and gradually, everybody leaves the house. What happens to the house? Mm-hmm. And this devotee started crying like a baby. So, leaving ISKCON to joining another organization with the excuse that there are greens here, there are ripened fruits there. Before a fruit gets ripened, it has to begin from its green state. So even if you consider them to be ripened, they were also green at some point. So why don't you stay there and continue to become ripened from wherever you are? And like you're saying, and Gurudev also said it, Gurudev said he's opportunistic. If you can offer him something better than what Srila Prabhupada has given us, he'll be the first person to grab it. But he said he's tried it and it's never found it. And if someone is sincere, try it. And I promise you, you will never find it. Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Maybe we can go to Drishti.
So, please don't move on. Don't move on.
Go ahead.
No,
Thank you.
Don't move on.
All right.
You want to know why I asked the question. I'm not asking the question because...
Excuse me. Before you continue.
No, not you.
Excuse me. I do not think either Mother CITI-SAKTI or my proud self ever think that you're asking this question for yourself. At least, personally,
No, we know you're not asking for yourself. We know you're asking generally.
Not at all, Prabhuji. Okay, Hare Krishna, you can move on.
Yeah, so please let me conclude.
Yes.
The arguments and whatever reasoning, I mean, all the reasoning being given are quite okay. But the only thing I want to add And the reason why I asked the question is whether it is okay to say that Ishkan society is a canister society. That is why I'm driving at. So if we speak like this, then we give rooms to people who want to justify why they are not fixed or loyal. Now, the example is given. It's like we're all in Kali Yuga. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But then the scripture also tells us that Kali Yuga is a state of consciousness. You can live the Satya Yuga within Kali Yuga. Spiritual consciousness can, Ishkan can be considered like living in the Kali Yuga, but under a shelter where we can experience Satya Yuga. It's a matter of consciousness. It's where how you want to feel, whether you are outside or inside. So anyway, I just wanted to say that if we say publicly that our society is canister, we are inadvertently giving vent to people who say they have reasons why they leave. That's why I'm asking the question. That's all. Thank you.
I really appreciate you sharing that. So first of all, in my mind, we're in a collective of, devotees who've been hearing for a long time, who are quite mature. I look around and there's very mature devotees here, and those devotees who are not mature have access to mature devotees. And me making a statement like our movement has a collective consciousness of Kanishta moving into Madhyam is not a criticism. It's not a criticism because, again, you're right. If anybody else hears this, this should be qualified. If you look at the patterns of our society and the patterns of a Kanishta, for many years, especially because our society was, at least in its manifestation here, on the externals, conducting itself with the kind of, the divisiveness, the separation, the segregation, there was a lot of interpersonal conflict, project competition, that kind of thing. However, the access that we have to pure devotional service is unmatched. And I will say that over and over again. Okay, so making a statement like, it is bold to say, we're Kanishta building into Madhyam as a collective consciousness. But it was also there, not given to discourage people or even to invite them to leave. It's there to actually encourage people. Let's step up. Because Saratma Prabhu also asked, how do we speed up people's advancement? If we advance, we automatically add to that collective consciousness. Because, again, coming back to my point, pure devotional service is pure devotional service. So ISKCON, where the Kanishta Madhyam Uttam is giving pure devotional service. And like you quite rightly said and put it so beautifully, yes, we're living in Kali Yuga, but it's a matter of consciousness. So let's uplift our consciousness so that a simple assessment of where we're at doesn't get misconstrued to be a criticism or an invitation to leave. Thank you so much, Shriman Varahadi Prabhu, and thank you for raising that, because I treated this forum as an intimate, closed forum rather than as a public platform. But since it's on YouTube, it could be seen as that. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Drishti, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please
Hare
accept
Krishna.
my humble obeisances. I recently heard from a devotee that a Siksha Guru is someone who sits with you one-to-one, face-to-face and gives Siksha. How true is that? I mean, because I always thought that a Siksha Guru is someone who is, give a talk online, and most of the devotees, some of us are not able to get access on site. So how true is that really? Just to avoid some confusion, really.
So our process of Krishna consciousness is primarily one of Shiksha. Shiksha means instruction, okay? So a Diksha Guru is the primary Shiksha Guru for a disciple, both in terms of priority of the instructions, but also longevity of the instruction, because the Diksha Guru will instruct both in this lifetime, beyond that lifetime of the disciple, and is responsible for that individual eternally. So their instructions need to plan for that disciple and their disciples, right? So they will often have to make sure that there are things put in place so that then when they physically depart, their disciples know what to do. Then you've got you look at other Shiksha gurus, and they're the people who you might, they're slightly less serious, but again of equal weighting and equal endowment of Guru Tattva is the Shiksha gurus who are instructing you on a day-to-day basis. And when I say instructing, I mean instructing. You take their, not what they say as advice, you take it as an instruction. You do exactly what they say. The same you might do with your Diksha guru, right? But those Shiksha gurus will instruct you in accordance with your Diksha guru's mood where you have one. Then there's even simple things where there's the Shiksha guru who gives class. The person who gives class is your, sorry, going back to the Shiksha guru who instructs you day to day, for the most part, they're responsible for you for either period of time during your lifetime, or maybe even that whole lifetime, depending on how long that relationship keeps going. And if it goes very deep, it can even continue. And Prabhupada even talks about how some Shiksha gurus become your Diksha guru, right? And then there's the Shiksha guru who gives class. So this person's also giving Shiksha, but they're responsible for you from the time that they start speaking to the time that the class is over, and maybe they have no more responsibility for you after that. They may not. And then you've got other different types of guidance like mentorship, counseling, coaching, things like that. So there's different types of Shiksha gurus. So I hope that clarifies. Shiksha just simply means instruction.
So is it best to have a Siksha guru who's a mentor as well?
It depends on where you're at in your spiritual life. If you are still in the very beginning stages, still trying to find some steadiness, mentorship is probably more suitable. And as you become closer to being able to take vows, look for a Diksha guru, then Diksha guru and Shiksha guru will, it's really more about how seriously you take someone's instruction. If it's take it or leave it, then it's better to start with mentorship.
Okay, so anyone who give classes at temple, online, they're all Shiksha gurus then?
They're giving Shiksha, but they're not responsible for you outside of the class that they give.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The generic sense of the word Shiksha. And so somebody, when they're giving class, they've got to think like this, that how's this going to help as many people as possible. So that's why when I was speaking, it was very good that Shriman Varaprabhu, raised this point about talking about the consciousness of our collective society in a public forum, because one has to be mindful, because when we take the podium of class, whether it's online or the Vyasasan in the temple room, there is an automatic receptivity from those who are listening. So one has to be responsible, because you are at least responsible for that hour or 2 hours, even if you're not responsible for them afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hassan?
That is one of the difficulties speaking in public, because you see a group of people you're speaking to,
yes,
but it goes beyond that group of people, and someone coming outside of the group generally may misunderstand whatever you shared, but the group cannot understand it. So it's always a little...
But on that point, I was going to say there was actually a paper published by ISKCON, by one of our leaders, specifically addressing this point of how ISKCON needs to move to more of a Madhyam consciousness. And we're getting there.
Yeah.
But how it would help. Because even in our spiritual lives, when we get to Madhyam, life is a lot easier. A lot easier. Challenges are still there, but they sway you a lot less. Cooperation's much better. There's a lot more love in the heart and sweetness. So Hassan, let's take your question. Wow, we're really going for it today.
Yes. But Hassan, please, you may unmute.
Please, Your Grace, can I have 5 minutes, please?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. CITI-SAKTI, see, I think Srimad Varaha Acharya Prabhu asked this question for the sake of sanctity of...
the benefit of the wider good. Yeah. I understand.
Because maybe at an appropriate time, I can share more into what I'm just about to say, because he's lived through this Kanishta mentality you're talking about.
Yes.
He knows it all well. I believe he knows it better than probably all of us assembled here.
Probably.
Yeah, because he's been put through so many situations, and they are all unfair. And supposedly coming from devotees who are either Uttama or at least Madhyama. So this is where the Kanishta mentality or attitude you're talking about is, because, and that actually leads me to the text itself we're discussing, because we've been trying to see Krishna for so many years through our ears. That is what the text says. Your devotees see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing.
Bona fide hearing.
Bona fide hearing. And thus their hearts become cleansed. I don't know whether the hearing process is not bona fide because we are not getting a bona fide speaker, or we, the hearers or listeners, are not bona fide. But we've been hearing for so long, yet our hearts are so heavy like steel. And that is where the Kanishta thing you're talking about comes about, because I don't know. I think if somebody worked in a particular job for 20 years, he'll become so expert in that particular job. Some of us is probably a lifetime in this process, and still we're like babies. So this is the difficulty.
But if you look at someone's job and they do it for 20 years,
Hare Krishna.
They do the same thing day in, day out. They are disciplined, they're systematic, they're routine. If you look at your hearing, and I'm inviting every single person to do this, is your hearing and the quality of your hearing as systematic, as disciplined, as routine, and as receptive as even the job that you do? You know, the process works. Bona fide hearing, if we have most control over our receptivity of hearing. We have least control over the qualification of the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And the science of Krishna consciousness is so perfect that a perfect listener can even get perfection from an unqualified source. Okay,
yes.
So that is what, so really it's comparing it to, compare it to anything.
Yeah.
Olympic training success, job, anything where you get results. You will see anywhere where anyone's getting results, consistency and discipline are necessary. If people are honest with themselves, if they're feeling stuck, it's because they haven't had the same consistency and discipline. And I'm not just talking about consistency and discipline of action, consistency of receptivity.
Mm-hmm.
How consistently is my heart open? Because that steel cage around my heart, I hold the key to it.
Yeah.
Am I going to open it and let Krishna in? Or am I going to hide?
Yeah.
What am I still clinging to in this world, thinking it's better than Krishna? And, you know, we hold on to a hell of a lot of rubbish, seriously, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, you're just like, what? Did I really convince myself that that's better than Krishna? And when you let it go, oh my God, I can't. It's like that old T-shirt that's been sitting in the back of your cupboard for 3 decades. I'm like, why has this been sitting there for 3 decades? What the hell? I haven't worn it for 30 years. Why didn't I throw it out before? And then you remember the little sentimental thing that made you keep it. It's like, oh my God, that's so stupid and it's so irrelevant. You know, it's gone. You don't even think I'll send it to recycling. You just go, no one's going to be able to make use of this. Let me dash it, you know? So, yeah. Anyway, Hassan's back. And then Hare
we should...
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Please kindly accept my respectful obeisances.
Please accept
All
mine.
glory to Guru Deva, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, and more grace to the wonderful assembly devotees. Your Grace, Sadeh Prabhu, thank you so much for bringing this up about the incidents which happened in the New Vrindavan when you came and visit.
Yeah.
I witnessed what happened there, and I'm being confused about the situation which the Prabhu said that he followed the other society.
Mm-hmm.
This question I should have asked him, but I think I feel so shy to ask him this question because you know, he have problem with the leg and it's very difficult for him to walk.
Yeah.
one time he invited us to his house, and it's really very far away from the temple. Very, very, very far away. But what baffles me is that every single day I went to the temple, he is there. Every single day he is in the temple. And this temple is ISKCON.
Yeah.
And even sometimes he will sing in the Ketan, even sing Narasimha Dev mantra to close the programs. So what confuses me is that if he's following another society, why is still in ISKCON? So it makes me confused. If you understand what I'm trying to say, because I'm following this society, but I'm still there, and every program and his situation, he drive all the way from his house to the temple, always, always, always. So I'm kind of confused about this. Like, I am this group, I'm not following Prabhupada, I'm following this group and this. So can you explain me more better about it? Because I'm kind of confused. Is it necessary to say that? Why do you have to say that if you are still in this society, participating and doing the same, follow the same process?
All right.
This is my question. You agree? So I'm confused about that.
But CITI-SAKTI, do you get his question?
I don't. I was going to ask you, Sahaj, because I think there's some context I'm missing. So if you could just sum it up for me and drill it down to your question.
Yeah. So in effect, he is asking, like in the scriptures, it's a Vantasi, excuse me to say, a dog throws up and then goes back and eats its own vomitus. So this particular Prabhupada disciple I was talking about, this devotee was also there. So he's sharing that even though he claims that he's left ISKCON, but every time he is in ISKCON temple, so he's wondering, what is the issue? You said you don't like these people, you're not happy with them, you left, but you're always there. So what could be the reason? That's his question.
Have you ever seen a teenager who goes to university and goes on about how they've left home, but they bring all their laundry home and they come home to eat and they still ask their mum to send them food? That's the he knows, his heart knows where the love is. He knows where he can get, his real heart knows where the love is. He knows what he can get in the community, but there's something in him that isn't allowing him to connect and take shelter of that right now. And so in his mind, he feels safer saying he's committed somewhere else. And with some love and affection, he'll develop a healthier relationship, just like teenagers do. Parents have to sometimes navigate that period of life with teenagers with tolerance, compassion, and patience, which again comes back to my point of let's all upgrade our consciousness and deepen our own bhakti, because all of these things will then just permeate through our society. It will happen naturally. So this is that situation, like the university student. Does that make sense, Hassan?
Yes, it makes sense. Because what we witnessed the other day, beginning how wonderful he spoke about Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
I was so amazed, and even the things which happened in front of him about Srila Prabhupada was so heart-touching. So at the end, when it happens like that, and even what is going on now that always is in the temple, sometimes it makes me so confused that even if you're still coming there, then you don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have said anything. That is my opinion, because every single day he's there and it's old, and from the temple to it's more than, it's almost an hour. Yeah. So
no, it works. But then the parents in the home, they know that I'll keep giving because I know this child will mature, and then they'll know. They'll know the right thing to do. They'll behave properly because they'll learn from that example. Yeah. Consistent.
Well, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
But CITI-SAKTI, we have to apologize to you. We've kept you here for
No,
close
no,
to
that
2
I've
hours.
really appreciated your
And but we have Arichakra Prabhu sent out, and we cannot go without.
No, I was going to actually call him to
okay, so Arichakra Prabhu, please, you may unmute and ask your whatever. See, I'm trying to make this a little longer. Govinda Prabhu used to say that when you cook a very delicious food, you should also understand that people are going to enjoy the food. They're not going to just leave the food. So when you speak so beautifully, people are going to keep you here. That does not mean you should not keep speaking beautifully, please. Arichakra Prabhu, go.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mata, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the class and the answers you've been giving so far. I was just thinking about the portion of the today's verse that Sadev Prabhu referred to, where Prabhupada was saying that Krishna's Lord Brahma saying that the devotees
yes, Lord Brahma speaking.
Yeah, say the devotees see him
through the years, yes.
Through the years, yeah. Yeah, and the explanation you give is like it's right on point, because I think a similar situation happened biblically when the disciples of Jesus was asking him in Matthew chapter 13, verse 10, that why is it that when we go out, you only preach in parables, but to us, you preach direct? And Jesus said, because it has been given to you to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it's not for them, because they listen, but they don't hear. They look, but they don't see. But you have been blessed that when you listen, you hear, and when you look, you see, and that's why you've been given the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. So similarly, devotees, sometimes what I think is maybe we might be listening to class, but we will just be listening without hearing.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah. So when you were answering that question, I said, oh, yeah, she's right on point. Because I think we have to learn how to actually hear, not just listen. Because if we just listen without hearing, then we'll be in class. Of course, we might get some benefit just by listening. We might get some benefit, but to get the actual benefit, we really need to hear. And that is the only way that it will enter our hearts and bring the change that we need. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for that in-depth explanation that you gave about that aspect of the Lord Brahma saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's amazing. You know, when Prabhupada would say he only needs 10 good people to change the planet. Look at what Jesus did. He had 12 disciples. The Bible's written by his disciples. They absorbed what he taught so well, they were able to write the basic scriptures for an entire religion. You look at Lord Chaitanya gave 8 verses. It was the majority of our books are written by the Goswamis. You know, and you look at this entire movement. Prabhupada started it with just a handful of people. You know, and I always say this about Prabhupada disciples. I know they've had many of them have had a colored life. Maybe they've not followed Varnashram perfectly, but they gave up their lives at a very young age.
Everything.
And broke all of that, like denied themselves the comforts of Varna and Ashram, because there's a comfort to the different ashrams, all of them, and Varnas, by doing them at the right time. They gave all up so that we can all have a balanced life. So there is no reason ever to criticize, you know, anybody who's, especially the Prabhupada disciples, but anybody who's sacrificed so much to allow other people to have a shot at Krishna consciousness.
Saratma Prabhu is a killer.
So I just read that. On that note, do we want to finish on that note?
Yes, I think we should finish on that note, please. Please. Please, you
He
may read.
says a
Yes.
simple example of why we spend so many years learning, practicing is perhaps the case that pretty much every single wife has given the instruction to their husband to put the toilet seat down, and after years they hardly get anywhere. The difference between listening and hearing. Please, let's all encourage each other to hear with open ears and open hearts and open minds, and the process works. Thank you so much for your sweet, sweet association, your enthusiasm, your scrutinizing, studying, and in-depth analysis of bhakti in the pursuit of pleasing Guru and Krishna. I really, really am so grateful for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We are eternally grateful for your association and your wisdom and love being shared with us every now and then, at least once in a month. And some of us are fortunately going to see you in person next month. Yeah. And dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute. Just click on your microphones, unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker, Her Grace CITI-SAKTI Devi, for sharing her love and wisdom with us all today. Jai. Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Pachakapatanabecha, Kripa Sindhya Ivacha, Pachitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha.
Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Some of the Vaishnava devotees Ki Jai. Vaishnavi devotees Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Well, devotees, we thank you all for being here as always. And we hope to see you all again tomorrow, same time, same place, by Shri Guru, Shri Krishna's grace. And we thank you all for your questions, contributions that actually churned out the ocean to bring up the impurities, which involves gems and jewels. So we thank you all very much, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Your Grace, please, is it possible to call you now or?
Yes, maybe after class. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.